Tale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Jutha Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathan Bitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Patan Sahakana Lalita Sri Vishakan Bitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Thank you, Kalachakra Krishna Prabhu, for your brilliant class. And we very much felt the presence of His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami Maharaj through your devotion to him. As you were speaking, I was remembering years ago by Srila Prabhupada and Krishna's grace, I was in Kurukshetra with a group of devotees, and we all gathered at Jyotisar. Jyotisar is the place Bhagavad Gita was originally spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. There is an ancient banyan tree. And we read in histories of acharyas, Sripad Madhvacharya went to that place, Ramanujacharya went to that place, Shankaracharya went to that place. Our beloved Gurudev Srila Prabhupada, he went to Kurukshetra and very much wanted land to build a Vaishnava university at that place. Historically, the great acharyas have very much recognized and worshipped the ancient banyan tree of Jyotisar. And it was there that His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj came to meet us. On this occasion, there was a nice group of devotees, and the two of us sat right under the tree. And when Maharaj spoke, he spoke from the 10th chapter. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. that I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me, and those who know this should worship me with all their hearts. And how he explained that verse in his own transcendental style. He had us repeat the verse again and again and again in Sanskrit. And then, word by word, he was explaining the significance. And he was emphasizing, if we just understand this one verse, everything is in it. Everything is in this verse. And he gave a very, very deep, profound, and heartfelt explanation, connecting it to Prabhupada. And as he was speaking with such conviction, with such philosophy, with such scholarship, and mostly with such love, I was sitting right next to him. I actually kind of felt like Arjuna hearing from Krishna. Although I wasn't qualified to be Arjuna, he was definitely Krishna's representative. And it was such a beautiful experience. And not long before he passed from this world, I was with His Holiness Richard Swami at his home in California. And we got a phone call that Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj was not so far away, somewhere near San Diego or something, and he really would like us to come to see him. And we went to the house of one of his disciples, and he was just such an emblem of Vaishnava etiquette and qualities. How he welcomed the devotees, the guests of his house, and we sat and we spoke and we laughed. He was reciting some slokas and we were talking about everything. And then I remember he gave me this mixture of honey and ginger powder, yes? Because he heard that I had some little sore throat or something, or cold. And he personally, with his own hands, he made this honey and ginger powder. And was so enthusiastic that I eat it. So I ate so much. Being stirred by his own hands, it was really special. And he told me he takes this every day. So today I'm going to definitely, in his honor, take some honey and ginger powder. But His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, very unique and special Vaishnava. In many ways, when I remember him, I remember His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj also. They both had a very, very special place in our society. His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, I believe he was born in 1920, which is 3 years before my father. He's senior to my father. And as we all know, he was born outside of Bombay. His parents were Vaishnavas, generations and generations. I read 8 generations of his family were all devotees of Krishna. Naturally, he had such an enthusiasm for Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and he had so many questions, and nobody could answer his questions. Even as a little child, his questions were very deep and real and philosophical. And even pundits could not answer them properly. But he was a devotee all of his life. And it was by his parents' arrangements. He was married young. And in 1955, he went to London. And there he was highly respected as a very pious, very religious man. He had earned his master's degree in Sanskrit, in English. He spoke practically any language he wanted to speak. Tremendous intellect, tremendous absorption. And he told us that one day he was just walking down Oxford Street and he saw some Western Hare Krishnas singing and dancing on the street. In those days, and today I think they've revived it, but every day, I remember I was in London in 1972 on my way back from India, and one of our godbrothers, Radhanath Swami, every day he would lead Harinam Kirtan down Oxford Street, the most famous street in all of London. Perhaps the most famous street in the world, for hours and hours. So, when people see devotees chanting and dancing, everybody has their own perception of what's happening. Now here is Mahavishnu Goswami, who's older than the fathers of all these devotees who are dancing around on the street. They've all been devotees for at the most 3 or 4 or 5 years. He's been a devotee at this time, this was 1972, 73. He's been a devotee for 52 years. He's a scholar of Sanskrit, scholar of the Bhagavat. But he saw the devotion in them, and he was very, very attracted. Saragrahi, he really saw the essence. He really felt Srila Prabhupada's grace coming through these devotees. He became very attracted. And he went to the temple in Berry Place, near the British Museum. And there he heard a young devotee from Amsterdam, Holland, with very white complexion and red hair. He was giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. His name was Hare Krishna Das Prabhu. And that was a special connection to me, because when I first came from India to Amsterdam, I lived in the temple there for about a month or 2. And my best friend his name was Hank, but later he became Hare Krishna Das. And he used to preach to me. He was a very good philosophical devotee. So he's younger than me. So here is Mahavishnu Goswami, coming from a very, very traditional Vaishnava family of India, scholar. And there's a young boy, younger than his sons, speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. And in his eagerness to hear the Bhagavatam, and in his natural humility, he was so deeply impressed that this devotee was speaking with so much devotion and so much conviction, and he was from Holland. It was a very moving experience for Maharaj, and he asked, how did you learn this? And he said, Hare Krishna Prabhu told him, I'm simply repeating the words that I have read in the books of my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Mahavishnu Goswami went to the temple in Bhaktivedanta Manor, And there was a library of Prabhupada's books there. And daily, from what I have been told, he would sit for 3 or 4 hours studying Prabhupada's books. And because he was already a scholar and a Sanskrit expert, he saw what Prabhupada was presenting to the world. And he surrendered his heart to Srila Prabhupada by reading Prabhupada's books. And he met Srila Prabhupada, I believe, the first time in 1973. Srila Prabhupada was so impressed that here's a person. In those days, there were very few Indians who were coming to our society seriously beyond just giving a donation or bringing some prasad. And he was, his age, but he was so deeply absorbed. Srila Prabhupada loved him. In fact, Srila Prabhupada told him that he should take initiation, he should take sannyas, and he should spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. It's Prabhupada's order to him. But he was a very serious, responsible man. He had a family, he had children, wife, he had a job. When he first met Prabhupada, he was the president of the Gujarati Association for London. And for those of you who go to London, you'll understand that so many Gujaratis. There may be more than in Gujarat, I don't know. But there's definitely a lot of Gujaratis in London. And he was the president of their whole organization. And for their annual event, he invited Srila Prabhupada to be the chief speaker. That's how much he really relished Prabhupada's books. And his meeting with Srila Prabhupada, he surrendered his life, he surrendered his heart. And Prabhupada told him, take sannyas, I will give you, and travel all over the world. And he decided to do it. There was no question in his mind if he would do it. But he wanted to do it in an exemplary way after completing his duties as a grihasta. That conception was quite revolutionary in ISKCON in those days. But it's what Prabhupada really wanted to establish eventually, the Varnashram Dharma, in a very sober and responsible way. So he would read the Srimad Bhagavatam hours and hours a day. He did his work, he raised his family, he completed his duties. But during that time, Srila Prabhupada left the world in 1977. And I believe it was around 1980 that he took initiation and he moved in the temple. I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was Berry Place or Soho Street. Soho Street. And he lived in that little temple in downtown London. And everybody else in the temple was younger than his children. And he was junior than all of them. Can you imagine taking orders? And study Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 4, 5 hours a day. He wouldn't fall asleep. He wouldn't have to walk around. He was absorbed. Krishna consciousness means absorption. Srila Prabhupada taught us there's the book Bhagavatam and there's the person Bhagavatam. The person Bhagavatam is one who's so totally absorbed in the book Bhagavatam that he speaks and lives as an example of the scripture. And everyone could see that he personified this principle. And for many years he lived in the temple as a vanaprastha. And eventually, Srila Prabhupada's order was fulfilled, and he accepted sannyas and began to travel and preach all over the world. Very interesting similarity of him and Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada was a very young man, 1922, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him that he should travel all over the world and spread Lord Chaitanya's message in the English language. But Prabhupada also was responsible. He had a wife, he had a child, he had a job. And Srila Prabhupada told us on that very day he accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his spiritual master and accepted his order as his life and soul. But he wanted to do it in a responsible way. He would visit Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur whenever he could and serve the devotees. In the same way, Mahavishnu Goswami, whenever Prabhupada was in London, he would go to visit him. Prabhupada was so affectionate toward him, and he loved to be with the devotees and assist the devotees in every way he could. And many years later, over 30 years later, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was appearing in Prabhupada's dreams and telling him, "You must take sannyas and spread this message all over the world." And he took sannyas from one of his godbrothers and did so. And although Mahavishnu Goswami was not officially initiated by Srila Prabhupada, because he felt that he needed to really live by the highest standards of full surrender before initiation, that was his mood. In his heart, he was fully initiated. In fact, he had more personal association with Srila Prabhupada than most of Prabhupada's initiated disciples. And he had more direct, specific instructions than most all of Prabhupada's direct disciples. So he was Prabhupada's disciple. In spirit, in every way, gave his life. And similar to Srila Prabhupada, he took sannyas for this purpose, to spread his Guru's message on his Guru's order all over the world. And like Srila Prabhupada, he had about 12 world tours. And wherever he went, people felt such shelter. Not just because of his age and because of his scholarship, but his kindness. He was so respectful to honor everyone. Whether it was a non-devotee or a new devotee or a senior sannyasi, he just had such love and kindness toward everyone. And people really felt deeply that he cared about them, because he did. Because he really saw everyone as part of Krishna. He really saw his service to Prabhupada in serving every person that he came in contact with. Naturally, he was so popular wherever he went. People found shelter in him. They were not only convinced by what he spoke, but they found shelter in his compassion. And more people wanted to take initiation from him because they had ultimate faith in his representing of Srila Prabhupada. But because he wasn't officially initiated by Srila Prabhupada, there was this technical controversy. And some people said, no, you cannot do. But so many people were coming. And I remember I was in the GBC meetings in those days when this was being discussed. And it took a few years. They wanted some committee to make a paper of research to find out whether this is really, and like that. And he waited, and always so respectful, always so kind, but at the same time as being respectful and kind to everyone, honoring people who were technically his superiors. Still he was giving full shelter to all these people. And it was a great time when, a very historical time in our society when he was completely blessed by this leadership of our movement to take disciples. And that's what Jai Shila was speaking about. Mahavishnu Goswami went to Dwarka, practically alone with a couple students, and sat in a little field and was giving Bhagavat Saptahas. And from that, a beautiful temple arose. And he went to Rajkot and started doing Bhagavat Saptahas, and from there an ashram, a guest house and temple came up. He was really a man who personified the essence of Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya's mission in every way, every aspect of him. And he was ill for many years. I believe he had a stroke or something at one time, in London. And I remember I went to visit him in England after he had this stroke. And even though he was somewhat incapacitated physically, his spirit and his kindness and his appreciation of devotees was just absolutely heart-melting, beautiful. He was transcendental. He was a transcendentalist in a compromised physical body. Cannot in any way block the compassion and the love and the conviction of a devotee. He was speaking about his stroke in purely philosophical terms to me. It wasn't even a physical problem. It was a philosophical revelation. Tateno kampam susamikshamano. He was just grateful, surrendering to Krishna in whatever happened. And from what he told me and what his disciples told me is he did not like hospitals. He hated hospitals. That's what they told me. His disciples actually used that word. He hated hospitals. hospitals. Now, devotees don't hate anything, but that means he really didn't like hospitals. And he would tell them, no matter what happens, don't bring me to hospitals. But somehow or other they convinced him to come to Bhaktivedanta Hospital because his health was really deteriorating. And when he came, he said, this is not a hospital. This is the spiritual world. This is a dham. This is a holy dham. As much, if not more than anybody in history, he encouraged our devotees at Bhaktivedanta Hospital by giving so much affection and so much appreciation. Because some people criticize, it's philanthropy and like that. But Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj said, this is Vrindavan, this is none different than Vrindavan. And he not only said it, but he did something which was perhaps the greatest honor our hospital will ever gain. In his last days, I believe he went to Nasik for some time because he loved Nasik. He loved to preach in Nasik, and it was also a very good place for his health. Nasik is one of the 4 places of Kumbh Mela. It is also a place where Sri Ram lived for a long time with Sita and Lakshman. Many leelas in Nasik. But his health was getting worse, so he knew he was going to leave. And should he stay in a holy place like Nasik? Should he go to Vrindavan? Should he go to Puri or Mayapur? He said, bring me to Bhaktivedanta Hospital. He said, it is none different than Vrindavan. It is a holy dham. And that's where he decided to leave this world, surrounded by loving devotees chanting the holy names. And for many of us, this was a revelation of his total faith and love for Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktivedanta Hospital were Prabhupada's devotees who were all serving together. For the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. And he recognized that in such a way that it's not different than Vrindavan. And I remember I was in Mayapur. It was just after the GBC meetings, I think, or something. I was in Mayapur. I don't remember if it was GBC meetings or something else, but I was with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. We did a program in Calcutta together. And that's where we got the news that he was in his last stages. So I had the great immortal fortune of being able to speak to him on the phone. He couldn't talk much, but I could express to him my love, my gratitude. And then Bhakti Charu Swami and myself decided immediately to leave everything. There was a 3-day huge festival in Calcutta, that's what it was. And I think only 1 day passed and we were going to leave it. We decided we will leave and go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital to be with Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. So we booked airplanes, but then by Krishna and Prabhupada's will, they took him. Srila Prabhupada brought him back into his eternal loving embrace in this spiritual world. And Bhakti Charu Swami and myself came and with Maharaj's beloved associates, disciples, followers, well-wishers. We went to Nasik to have a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wrote, "He reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die, because thou art living still in sound. Vaishnavas died to live, and live to spread the holy name around." Mahavishnu Swami Maharaj taught us by his life's example how to be absorbed in the holy name, how to be absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam, how to be absorbed in service to the Guru, Srila Prabhupada, how to be absorbed in service to the Vaishnavas, how to be absorbed in compassion to all beings. And he did it with such absorption, total absorption. Today we are all praying to His Holiness Mahavishnu Swami, Goswami Maharaj for even a drop of his absorption into our own lives. Thank you very much. Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. And it is truly an honor, and we are so grateful that you have decided to have this ceremony here at Radha Gopinath Temple today. Of all the places in Brahma's creation, we chose to have this ceremony here. We feel very much Gurudev Goswami Maharaj's blessings upon us. Thank you.
Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Should we ask Chandramali Maharaj to speak now or after? What is your wish? Do you have a schedule for reading Bhagavatam at this time? Afternoon. Chandramali Swami Maharaj, would you like to speak, please? Huh? Evening? Oh. Okay. Thank you.